The play is Memory. Being a memory play, it is dimly lighted, it is sentimental, it is not realistic. In Memory, everything seems to happen to music. The words of Columbus native and Pulitzer Prize winner Tennessee Williams explains the music in the wings along with the music of the gently flowing river in the background.
Welcome to the 27th Annual Tales From The Crypt, sponsored by the students at the Mississippi School for Mathematics and Science. My name is Brianna Ladnier, a junior from MSMS from St. Martin High School, and I'd like to share some information with you before you begin your tour.
Consider the land you'll be strolling tonight. The tombstones you see mark mountains of information, revealing the people who wove the history of Columbus. While they no longer be able to speak, their stories can forever be felt and heard through the cemetery.
You will now have the opportunity to connect with characters from the 19th and 20th century as they share their contributions and stories.
They rest as you stand in the historic Friendship Cemetery, founded on May 30th, 1849 on a 5-acre plot of land by the Independent Order of Oddfellows.
Friendship Cemetery was originally designed to evoke 3 interlocking links of a chain, representing friendship, love, and truth. Each one of the performers you will see tonight will represent some aspect of that triumvirate of humanity.
Hear that ticking? Is that a bomb? Yankee putting one in the chamber? Nah, it's just my watches. Need one? You see, watch is something worth something. Wear them on your wrist, hanging from your pocket by a chain. Let you know what time it is. Help keep track of how much is past, how much is left, and how much is wasted. Name's George H. Buckingham. I used to be one of those Yankees. I was born in New York City. Larry Pop taught me how to make watches. But it didn't take me long to realize the big city life wasn't for me. So I moved down to Columbus, Mississippi looking for business. And I found it, and a whole lot more. See, people here share my beliefs, and they bought my watches. Of course, that was back before the war. Gotta understand, I wasn't here for very long before I had to take up arms to defend these beliefs, waging war against those boys above Mason-Dixon. I enlisted in Columbus Riflemen in the outbreak of the war, to advance the flag of Dixie and defend my home. With my new brothers, we went to Pensacola, Florida. We did all right. From there, we went to Fort Donelson, Kentucky. We didn't do so hot. Camp Douglas, Chicago was my home for the next 3 years. I shared that 80-acre prison camp with 6,000 of my fellow Confederates. Men who bought my watches. Men who had wives. Men who had children. Some get tortured and drugged through hell every single day. The U.S. Yankees in Chicago, they didn't give a damn. They were selling tickets there, youngins, to watch from the tops of the roofs the horrors that were being done to these men. I thought I left that sickness when I left New York. But I don't reckon it was any sickness to be cured or run away. It takes a bullet I didn't have anymore. I spent my time wishing I was outside those walls, back in the fight. I wish I could put Lincoln, Ulysses, and Beelzebub's dirty little followers in the dirt. Of course, it never happened. You see, I swore upon my country's altar never to submit or falter. And there I was, having done just that. And with no way to make it up to myself, Robert E. Lee, my brothers, or the Lord. Well, I know you knew my name, but I doubt you knew my name. Sometimes I think it's a good thing. I'm ashamed I let down my country that day. Too embarrassed to ever let anybody know. But it seems like they already do. Maybe that's why I never married when I got home. I say home, that ain't true. I ain't been home since '61. I spend my time in a hotel making watches. That's all I got left to do anymore. I just sit and make watches. I sleep very little because sometimes I dream. I dream the same dream every time. I dream it's a foggy morning, I'm standing next to Johnny Reb saying, hoorah, hoorah. Let me get quiet. Hear Grant leading the Yanks in the distance. Cut to us, tied a chair in a tent. I'm looking at Johnny in his tired eyes. Lincoln comes in, unties me, shakes my hand, thanks me for the help. Johnny's got a sadness on his face I can't get out of my mind. Then I wake up in a cold sweat wishing I could apologize. Often I think I should have been killed in Kentucky. Maybe that way I might be remembered. Maybe I should do myself in now. Hell, not a damn soul to miss me. I just want to go home. I want to go home to Dixie. I pray the Lord forgives me for letting down my country. I pray he lets me go home. I pray he lets me go to heaven. But if not, I ain't afraid of hell. I've been to hell. If I go to hell, I'll do what I was made to do. Place my knapsack on my back, my rifle on my shoulder, and I'll march away that fire line. I'll kill that Yankee soldier. Till then, till my time of judgment comes, I'm gonna sit right here. Do what Papa learned me to do. Make watches.
The first burial to take place in Friendship Cemetery was that of Mary Elizabeth Bell Sinclair, the young wife of Alexander Sinclair, who died during childbirth at the age of 18 on July 16, 1849.
As you walk, you will see beautiful magnolias throughout the cemetery, a fitting accompaniment to the silence and solitude of the deceased. Some were planted in the year of the cemetery's founding. Others were planted by the United Daughters of the Confederacy in 1876.
To my dearest brother William, I am writing to you today in desperate need of help. Ever since you left, our family has been in shambles. We miss you. I don't know if you get the Columbus Dispatch all the way in Alabama, but you should have seen the news. The most dreadful thing happened to us this past Thursday. In the middle of this scorching summer, our beautiful house was set on fire. Deliberately. Oh, damn it. I am always messing up. Oh, I'm sorry. Mama says young ladies like me shouldn't say words like that, but I can't help myself. Ever since our house burned down, well, I've had to lock myself in this here room and write a letter to my brother. You know him, don't you? William's only the finest young man in all of Columbus, he is. That is, till he went to Alabama, of course. Says he's going to get himself a business degree and come back and help Papa run the stores, but, well, you want to know what I think? I think he just wanted to get away from it all. You see, my family, the esteemed Cox family of Columbus, well, we haven't been doing too well lately. It all started on a Thursday, since I was in my room reading, like I always do. And then suddenly, fire. Oh, I don't remember much except the fear. You see, there used to be a room on the far east corner of the house where, the moonlight just shone as bright as a lantern. My brother and I used to play there when we were children with a little girl named Alice, and she became my best friend. After the fire, they carried me out, and I was fine, thank goodness. Only thing I had to show for it were a couple scars on my ankles, and, well, I'd show you, but Mama thinks it's awful impolite for a young lady like me to be showing my ankles to strangers. I was okay. But you know my friend Alice? She was nowhere to be found. And the newspapers have the audacity to say that it was our housekeepers who did it. They said it was a father and a son, John and Jim Lang. They wrote that both of them fell in love with Alice. And, when one of them was so angry that she refused to marry him, that he locked her in the room we played in as children, and he set the house on fire. Oh, you don't believe that, do you? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get so emotional. It's just hard to face these challenges without my brother here to help me. You know, William used to always take care of me when I was a little girl. Well, I'm going to have to let you go now. I've got a letter to write.
Added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1980, Friendship Cemetery is noteworthy as the final resting place to 5 Confederate generals, 2 U.S. congressmen, 2 Confederate congressmen, and 1 who served in both Congresses.
Additionally, 2 Mississippi governors, over 2,000 Confederate soldiers, and 1 Confederate nurse are buried here. Following the Battle of Shiloh in spring of 1862, 32 Union soldiers were also buried here. However, their bodies were later relocated to the Corinth, Mississippi National Cemetery in October of 1867.
Following the Battle of Shiloh, Columbus became a hospital town, and here 2,194 soldiers found the final resting place, and over 1,500 of these remain unknown. Their stories forever lost to the canvas of humanity. That is history.
Oh my! Customers? I just love customers. Let's see what I can find for you. I think this hat might be just right for you. You want to try it on and see how it looks? No? Well, how about this one? What do you think of this one? No? Not this one either? Well, what are y'all folks doing here in my millinery tonight? You want to know how a single woman living in the South manages to run her own business? I suppose I can spare a few minutes to tell you about myself, and maybe I can say you find folks a hat or two. My name is Miss Matilda Bailey, but everybody calls me Tilly. I was born sometime around 1845. Mama didn't keep records too well when I was little. My mama was Miss Rebecca D. Sharp before she married my father, Horatio Bailey, on August 19, 1841. When I was little, my father Horatio worked as a clerk here in Columbus. Growing up, though, I stayed home with Mama. I never did much schooling. That was for the boys, they said. My mama struggled, though, raising us youngins. I guess it was hard after my sisters died. First it was Emma in 1850, then Elizabeth, and later Cordelia in 1868. I guess Mama, she just couldn't take it anymore because she died a few months after Cordelia on February 7th, 1869. Daddy was crushed. I mean, the love of his life was gone, but he kept on for 27 years without her by his side. After Daddy died, it was just me and my two brothers, Delargay and Horatio Jr. Delargay and we've lived together ever since. I never married, you see. After the Civil War ended back in 1865, and not many of our soldiers came home, I decided I wouldn't marry. Delargay, he's been working at a furniture store down the street, and it got me to thinking that I should do some work and support myself. So I opened this here millinery. What is a millinery, you say? Why, I sell the finest hats, trims, and lace that any lady could want or need. I travel to the East every so often to discover the newest fashions and bring back the very best material. I spare no expense from my customers. We've moved around a bit in Columbus, but in August of last year, 1909, I decided to have the shop right here at my house, 215 North 5th Street. It sure hasn't been easy, though, running this millinery. Being a single woman and all, it can sometimes be hard to find support. Everybody kept telling me I should settle down and get married, raise some youngins of my own, let a man take care of me. What do I need a man for? I can take care of myself. Why, just the other day, in the newspaper, you know, the Columbus Dispatch, they said that my millinery was the finest one around. What do you think of that? Now, are you sure I can interest any of y'all in a hat tonight? No purchases? Well, I have other customers to attend to now, but do come back sometime with a full purse maybe, and I'll have something more to your liking later on.
What? You must be here for shopping. It seems like you brought some friends with you. Sorry to tell y'all, but the store is, closing for the night. Y'all are still here. Bless your hearts. I'll tell you what. I'm feeling just a smidgen sociable. So why don't you gather around and have a listen to the story of one of the greatest men to have ever lived. Yours truly. Now the people around town call me Griffin Roberts, the merchant, Columbus. Well, it's more like a merchant in Columbus. Business never is quite like it should be. You see, I was once a farmer. Well, a farmhand. Pa was a lawyer, but figured I wasn't quite the type for the study of law. So he and Ma they thought the best thing for me was some character building. Of course, character building didn't make much money. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to yourself, Mr. Roberts, as exciting as this tale is, ain't there any fighting or an adventure? Well, I can assure you that's what I thought to myself back in '98 when the Spanish-American War hit. You see, I decided to do right by my country and enlist in the 2nd Mississippi Infantry, a volunteer division, hoping to bring reckoning to any Spaniards who dared to show so much of the whites of their eyes to the barrel of my rifle. Now, they say war is hell, and my experience is no different. After all, every man has his own personal hell. My hell began by taking the longest walk ever taken, all the way down to Jacksonville, Florida, which they told us was to be defended at all costs. They posted me at the wall. They said, son, guard these here bricks with your life. For 2 whole months, 7 hours a day, 8 days a week, I stared at those bricks. I stared at those bricks for so long, the image of them will forever be burned into my eyes. Over the ages, I stared at those bricks. I started to make out the visage of Theodore Roosevelt in them. He was laughing at me. He was laughing at me because all I did, day in and day out, was stare at bricks. He was out fighting tooth and nail, and where? Cuba? Because those bricks, I never got promoted. It's because those bricks I never saw any action. And it is because of those bricks I will never end up in the history books. And you know what? It's one thing they promised me when I went off. And when I would come back, I, Griffin Roberts, would be a war hero. Well, I have a question for you. What kind of a hero does nothing but stare at bricks? When I left, Ma, she said to me, she said, when life gives you lemons, Griffin, make lemonade. Well, life threw me lemons, and all I can make out of them was some damn bricks. Hell, look at you all right now, standing here in a brick and mortar store. Come back home to see monuments made of bricks. Everything nowadays seems to have some sort of brick overlay or brick foundation. I just can't escape them. I think I've just decided something. When I die, I want Catherine to get me one of them veteran tombstones. And to anyone else, that's what it would seem to be, that I, Griffin Roberts, was just a veteran in our United States Armed Forces. But you and I, we'll know better. We'll know that all I did for 2 months of my life was stare at bricks. Now go on and get. Can't y'all see I got a store to run?
Do you know how it feels to lose someone you love? To see them die right in front of your eyes? To have them take their last breaths right in your arms? Tell me, do any of you have an answer? Tell me! I apologize. I shouldn't have acted out in such a manner. Have you all come to grieve with me as well? Yes? Well, it does lighten my heart to know that my little brother William had such wonderful friends that cherished him. Who am I? I'm Columbus Sykes. Here he is. Here lies William Edmund Sykes, a hero, a husband, a father, a brother. I can still remember when Will was born on January 28th, 1835. I can still see us running around on the open fields of our family's plantations as kids. He was always the more intelligent one. In fact, by the age of 18, he'd completed his coursework at LaGrange Military College. Just like our father, he wanted to become a doctor, and he did become one. He made us so proud when he attended the University of Pennsylvania Medical School. I just wish he'd never made the decision to join the Confederate Army as a surgeon. Why couldn't he just stayed in Columbus to practice medicine instead? Eventually, he began to feel that even his efforts as a surgeon weren't enough to help with the war effort. Do you know what he said? He said that he wasn't willing to hide behind a sick man's couch. So 3 weeks later, he discharged from the 4th Battalion on May 21st, 1862. On the same day, he was reassigned as the 1st Lieutenant and 1st Adjutant of the 43rd Regiment of the Mississippi Infantry. Curse his sense of duty. Curse his bravery. Damn it all! If it weren't for them, he'd still be here today. Lizzie wouldn't have been widowed. James and Mary would still have a father. And I'd still have my little brother. I still can't believe he's gone. That he'll never be there for his family again. It breaks my heart to know that his 2 children will have to grow up without the love of a father. They're so young, little James and his sister Mary. They won't have the hand of a loving father to hold and guide them anymore. My dear nephew and niece, may God bless them. I still can't get those images out of my head. We were at the Battle of Decatur, Alabama. Every time I close my eyes, I can hear Will's cry of pain. I can see the splatter of his blood as he got shot right off his horse. I tried to get to him. I ran as fast as I could. But when I got to him, I knew he wasn't going to make it. I carried him. I carried my little brother to the nearest house. And as fate would have it, it was the same house that Will had been born in 29 years ago. I stayed with him that night, talking to him. Every breath he took was labored. His grip on my hand gradually loosened. Will died the next morning on October 7th, 1864. I was the one who had to write a letter to his family, letting them know what had happened. I had to be the one to let Lizzie know her husband was dead. I had to let his 2 children know that their father was never going to come back from the war. My hand shook as I wrote this letter. My tears wet and smeared the page. I just hope that you'll all remember him as his family and I do. As a hero, a husband, a father, a brother.
The deaths of war are tragic, tearing apart far more than the lives of soldiers. However, out of the tragedy in 1862 sprung an act of renewal and reconciliation in 1866. In April of that year, 4 Columbus women met in the parlor of 12 Gables and decided to decorate the graves of both the Confederate and Union dead with spring flowers.
They led a parade of women to this cemetery on April 25, 1866. Their impartiality was reported in the New York newspapers and immortalized by the poem The Blue and the Gray, first published in Atlantic Monthly in September 1867.
It's nice to see more people are showing up to help commemorate our lost loved ones. My name's Jane Fontaine.
My name's Katie Hill.
My name is Augusta Sykes.
My name is Maddie Moore, and we're the founders of this tradition.
We first started laying flowers on our fallen soldiers' graves on April 25th, 1866.
We've all been friends for quite a while, and considering our losses happened around the same time, it's brought us closer together and has given us a way to cope.
It's been 3 years since our first gathering, and each year it gets easier to deal with, but the pain is always the same. Losing a loved one to war brings a storm of emotions. First, it's the now. You know the war is dangerous and the risks are very high, but you always hope that it's not your loved one who's taken. You hope that maybe the letters were sent to the wrong address, or there was even a misprint in the dispatch.
Next, it's anger. You wonder why they had to go into that stupid war in the first place. I found myself constantly cursing God, asking, why him? Why couldn't you have taken somebody else?
Then the pain and sadness slowly set in. Countless nights were spent on my floor, crying myself to sleep, rereading the letters he had written to me over and over again.
William and I had a future. We were going to raise our kids, grow old together. It's not fair that we were taken from me so soon. A life without him is a life I didn't think I could live. But alas, here I am.
Augusta, William has been dead for 4 years now. You have to move forward. You shouldn't cry all the time, or your life will pass you by before you can even see it.
Maddie, there is no right way to react. She will cope in her own ways and feel how she needs to. We can't all be as strong as you are, but at least you had the strength to come here today.
We've all lost someone to the war. Every year I pray for strength when I come to lay my flowers. But we don't have to grieve alone.
You're right, Jane. We will always have each other and this tradition that brings us together every year. Not even the force of death itself can take that away from us.
Not even that. Our legacy will live in the hearts for many generations to come.
Francis Miles Finch wrote a poem about us and published it in the Atlantic in 1867.
Of course, it wasn't really about us. It was about them.
By the flow of the inland river, whence the fleets of iron have fled, where the blades of grave grass quiver, asleep are the ranks of the dead. Under the sod and the dew, awaiting the judgment day, under the one, the blue, under the other, the gray.
From the silence of sorrowful hours, the desolate mourners go, lovingly laden with flowers, alike for the friend and the foe. Under the sod and the dew, awaiting the judgment day. Under the roses, the blue, under the lilies, the gray.
Sadly, but not with upbraiding, the generous deed was done. In the storms of the years that are fading, no braver battle was won. Under the sod and the dew, awaiting the judgment day. Under the blossoms, the blue, under the garlands, the gray.
No more shall the war cry sever, or the winding rivers be red. They banish our anger forever when they laurel the graves of our dead. Under the sod and the dew, awaiting the judgment day.
Love and tears for the blue, tears and love for the gray. It's nice to see more people are showing up to help commemorate our lost loved ones. My name's Jane Fontaine.
My name is Katie Hill.
My name is Augusta Sykes. My name is Maddie Moore, and we're the founders of this tradition.
We first began laying flowers on our fallen soldiers' graves on April 25th, 1866.
We've all been friends for quite a while, and considering our losses happened around the same time, it's brought us closer together and has given us a way to cope.
It's been 3 years since our first gathering, and each year it gets easier to deal with, but the pain is always the same. Losing a loved one to war brings a storm of emotions. First, it's the now. You know the war is dangerous and the risks are very high, but
You always hope that it's not your loved one who is taken. You hope that maybe the letters were sent to the wrong address, or there was even a misprint in the dispatch.
Next, it's anger. You're angry that they ever had to go into that stupid war in the first place. I found myself constantly cursing God and asking, why him? Why couldn't you have taken someone else?
Then the pain and sadness slowly set in. Countless nights were spent on my floor, crying myself to sleep, rereading the letters he had written to me over and over again.
William and I had a future together. We were going to grow old together, raise our children. It's not fair he was taken from me so soon. A life without him is not a life I thought would be worth living. But alas, here I am.
Augusta, William has been dead for 4 years now. You have to move forward. You shouldn't cry all the time, or your life will pass you by before you can even see it.
But Maddie, there's no right way to feel. She'll cope in her own ways and feel how she needs to. We can't all be as strong as you are. At least she had the strength to come today.
We've all lost someone to the war. Every year I pray for strength when I come to lay my flowers. But we don't have to grieve alone.
You're right, Jane. We have each other, and we have this tradition. Nothing but the force of death itself can take that away from us.
Not even that. Our legacy will live in the hearts for many generations to come.
Francis Miles Finch wrote a poem about us and published it in the Atlantic in 1867.
But of course, it wasn't really about us. It was about them.
By the flow of the inland river, whence the fleets of iron have fled, where the blades of grave grass quiver, asleep are the ranks of our dead. Under the sod and the dew, awaiting the judgment day, under the one, the blue, under the other, the gray.
From the silence of sorrowful hours, the desolate mourners go, lemmingly laden with flowers, alike for the friend and the foe. Under the sod and the dew, awaiting the judgment day. Under the roses, the blue, under the lilies, the gray.
Sadly, but not with upbraiding, the generous deed was done. In the storms of the years that are fading, no braver battle was won. Under the sod and the dew, awaiting the judgment day. Under the blossoms, the blue. Under the garlands, the gray.
No more shall the war cry sever, or the winding rivers be red. They banish our anger forever, when they laurel the graves of our dead. Under the sod and the dew, awaiting the judgment day.
Love and tears for the blue, tears and love for the gray.
To your left, notice the most recognizable grave in that of Friendship Cemetery. The weeping angel, also known as the Angel of Grief, drapes over the grave of Reverend Thomas Teasdale.
Reverend Teasdale became pastor at the First Baptist Church of Columbus before the Civil War. He was so beloved by his flock that when he died, the congregation ordered the Angel of Grief, saying that when he died, even the angels cried.
I'm sorry for your loss of Abner Aminga on the 1st of April, 1893. He's dead. The father of my 4 children. He's dead. What am I going to do? Oh, pardon me, but I'm Jane Ireland Minga, and little does my late husband, Abner A. Minga, know that it's time for me to get something of my very own. Ever since that dusty old man had gone to the war for the Confederacy, I was the one that had to do all the work around here. I was the one that had to deal with the children, the house, the farm. But what did I get in return for all this, you ask? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, in your eyes, what I got may seem like it was quite a bit, but in mine, heck no. I see you shaking your head over there. You may think that I'm the most greediest woman you've ever seen. But honey, I wasn't always like this. You see, I was born on Christmas Day of 1848, and you bet I was the angel of the entire town. Maybe that's why he married me on that summer day of 1880 that I could care less about, because ever since that day, he never forgot about his previous wife, Elizabeth. But maybe that's why I was just waiting for the death of that man. But now, my son, Abner, who unfortunately shares the same name as my late husband, is trying to get his adult rights. I mean, there's nothing wrong with him trying to get his minority rights taken away. He's a young, capable 19-year-old man. And with the death of his father, he wants to become the man of the house. Huh. Well, he should know his place, because I am his mother. I just can't believe it. My firstborn son trying to take away my land, my mules. Oh Lord, what has this world come to? But never mind that. Let me just tell you exactly how much I got for all of my hard work. I got here and there the acres of land, and my precious little mules, Fly, Sock, and Sam, my babies. Why, hell, Swoop, who swooped up my property, got more. I'm filing a lawsuit against that woman. Who does she think she is, trying to get more property than me? Just because she's my late husband's sister, don't give her that right. I'm not gonna let this stand, because I'm a proud, white Southern woman that has a reputation in this town to keep. But y'all are lucky, because my lawyer, Mr. Baldwin, is about to come, you see. But before I send y'all off, if I hear that any of y'all said anything to Abner or Hale, then I'm just gonna have to send y'all to the police. But y'all better be lucky that Sock ain't gonna kick ya. Now shoo!
Graves throughout this cemetery suggest important events that have shaped the history of our state and nation. This is the gravesite of Annie Coleman Payton.
Miss Payton was one of 2 Mississippi women to help persuade the Mississippi legislature to fund the Mississippi Industrial Institute and College, now the Mississippi University for Women in Columbus.
This action created the first publicly funded university for women in 1884. Miss Payton taught history at INC until her death in 1898, and all 4 of her daughters graduated from the university. Miss Payton would be proud to know that over 250,000 students have earned a certification or degree at the university.
As you tread this hallowed ground this evening, do not forget that you, born in an earlier time, may very well share some of these experiences with those you meet tonight. You honor their memory by listening to their stories, stories that weave the history of this town on the Tombigbee River, Columbus.
Keep down your head, Ed Dooley, Dooley, keep down your head, oh Ed. If you ain't dead by now, get the hell out of town and keep down your head, Ed. Oh. What are you doing standing around here? I told you to get your butts upstairs and work on the ground molding. My pay's already been docked $10 for your lazy butts just standing around here. These damn Yankees think they can just come down here and buy houses and hire magicians and make pops works that haven't run in 42 years. Why cuss so damn much? It ain't like if I stop saying damn in hell, all these people around here gonna think something different of me. Especially the locals. You see, me and Della, we didn't start in the most orthodox way. let's just say 9 months after our third day, the first daughter, Katie, was born. Well, Della didn't want people around here to think something different of her, especially the police. You know, the 1848 law banning sexual intercourse between unmarried beings. So she picked up her bags and she picked up her kid and she moved to her daddy's place in Missouri. And we continued seeing each other. William, 1888, and Stocker in 1890. And with 3 children, Della said she wasn't going to deal with this mess no more. We were going to come back to Columbus and we were going to start a family. And I reopened my plumbing business. George Hickey, the practical plumber, steam and gas fitter. And I made the best decision of my life when I looked into the clear blue eyes of Della Bell Hickey. And I told her that I loved her. And I wanted her to be my wife for the rest of her days on earth. You see, I remember our wedding day. She was all dressed up in this pink lace dress her mama made for her, and she smelled like tulips, and I kissed her by the altar. And it was moments like that I thought we were going to last forever. We didn't. You see, I woke up one morning and I rubbed her neck all nice and kind, and I felt something. And we weren't going to do anything about it for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks turned into 2 months. And by the time we went to the doctor, he said it was cancer. He handed me 2 bottles of morphine and told me to make her feel comfortable for the rest of her days on earth. I married Donnie about a year ago. You know, the house needed keeping and the children, they needed a mother, and I just worked on things, so there was nothing left to work on. I built us a new house in Upper East Columbus, and move was inspired by our first daughter, Katie. You see, before I opened my plumbing business, well, me and Della, we ended up in some pretty rough places. We raised our children in not the most safe neighborhoods, and knowing this, we taught them how to pick up a gun and shoot by the age of 6. Well, Katie, she took this a little bit literally. You see, Katie, she was going to do better than us, and she did. She married before she had children into a very prompt man, if I say myself. They live in his grocery store right across the railroad tracks, Columbus Dry Goods. Well, life was good until one day, local drunk Ed Dooley walked in. He said, "Bud, get me a beer and tell your whore wife to work on the second." Well, Katie, she didn't take too kindly to this. And she did what any respectable Southern woman would do. She picked up a gun off the shelf and she shot that son of a nothing right between the eyes. Of course, she was arrested for murder, trivial things like that. On her court date, she was announced first woman in Columbus to shoot a man. Well, the prosecutor, he took this in a prospect. He said, "It was not Miss Green's fault for shooting that poor man. It was her husband who controlled her and told her to do so." I didn't believe it, and neither did the jury. Both were acquitted in 1907. Is that them coming back? Get your butts upstairs and work on the crime mounting!
As you tread this hallowed ground this evening, do not forget that you, born in an earlier time, may very well share some of these experiences with those you meet tonight. You honor their memory by listening to their stories. Stories that weave the history of this town on the Tombigbee River, Columbus.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Little old black lady reading her Bible. Slave, right? But see, I wasn't no regular slave. I was the oldest of us all. The best at my work, too, if you ask me. Well, first, let me introduce myself. I was Miss Mary Land, named after Mr. James Madison Land. I was born in 1829. I had felt like I'd been with the Land family since Earth been in the ring. Looking good for my age, huh? You know, most folk glorified that Mr. Land was an early settler of Columbus and a pastor and a loving husband and father. But see, to me, he was a slave owner. Mr. Land and his wife, Miss Rebecca, had a host of children. And guess who cared for them? Me. But I tell you, it wasn't easy caring for his and being pregnant yourself. I had my first youngin' in 1842. Lord knows I wanted to give up. I didn't know what I was doing, but my Pearl, she kept me going. But Mr. Land's oldest son, James Lawrence Land, see, that was my baby. But I guess I'd say that since my actual son, Bo, was sold. And when I thought about them selling my son, I thought, how could you expect me to clean after your kids, to nurture your kids, but you sell mine? What about me? But then I thought, what about me? To them, I was just another slave who had better do whatever they say. But back to my son, baby James. Born in 1848, he grew up to be just like his daddy in both good and bad ways. So, baby James, he was a farmer and he was a provider. But baby James was a slave owner. But one year, I'd never forget, 1871, baby James married a young gal named Nancy from over there in Pickens County, Alabama. Miss Nancy was the only child born to William C. Reeder and Ellen Parthena. After the wedding, they moved back in the house with us until baby James could get on his feet. But after, they got a place of their own and they started having all those children. And guess who had to care for them? Me. They had 9 of those children. They had William and Walter and John and James and Aaron. 5, you'd think she'd stop. But then they had Cooper and Lula and Sarah and that post Sally. But see, Miss Sally died while Miss Nancy was giving birth. But I guess baby James wanted his 9th child because he went and had an outside child. Miss Nancy wasn't too pleased. She stayed around though. I stayed around too. Most of them boys grew up to be just like their daddy and granddaddy, farmers. And them gals grew up to be just like their mother and grandmother, housewives. Because Miss Nancy was a typical housewife. Get married, cook and clean, and do for your husband. The usual stuff for a Southern woman. But see, in the early 1900s, they said, Mary, baby James, he gone, he died. And it's like my soul had left my body to lose 2 sons. But then they tell me, Mary, how could you care? There was a white man, the son of your slave owner. But I told them, love has no color or condition. That was my son. But I wasn't the only one who took it hard. Miss Nancy was miserable here, so miserable that she moved away in Sunflower County with one of the boys. But even in 1925, they brought Miss Nancy back because she died. But they brought her back. They buried her right here in Friendship, just a few plots back there so they could see her whenever they like. But let me get back to tending to my Bible. I'll see y'all.
Since 1991, students from the Mississippi School for Mathematics and Science have presented Tales from the Crypt. The students you see tonight have researched throughout the year, and the dramatic presentations that you see tonight are a reflection of that research.
Each year, the tour is new and original. The Tales from the Crypt has gained awards of commendation from the Mississippi Historical Society and the Mississippi Heritage Trust. In 2005, Tales from the Crypt was awarded with the Governor's Award for Excellence in the Arts. And we were also recognized by the History Channel as one of the 15 finalists in the History Channel's Save Our Classroom program.
Additionally, the program has inspired similar presentations in Natchez, Mississippi, Goshen, Mississippi, Selma, Alabama, other southern cities, and most recently, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh, Myrtle! James was a war hero in the Great War! Oh, no. See, James wasn't a war hero. He wasn't even a soldier. He was a nurse. A man nurse. A little silly if you ask me. And my parents want me to marry this silly man. I don't want to, and I've got a perfectly good reason why. Listen, Myrtle, McKellar, McWilliams? No! This sounds silly, right? I have always loved the sound of Mrs. Myrtle, McKellar, Valentino. See, Mr. Valentino, he comes to talk to me sometimes. Mama doesn't see him or hear him, but I do. Oh, he tells me the sweetest things, like how he personally believes that I, Myrtle McKellar, would make a fine young actress. And I can't say I disagree. Y'all all take a good look at me. Wouldn't you say I've got the figure? But no. Mama says that I can't be an actress because they're floozy women. But what Mama doesn't know is that I want to be a floozy. Sometimes when I look around, I see myself. I really do. And you want to know what I don't see? I don't see a housewife in Columbus, Mississippi. I don't see a Mrs. James McWilliams. I see big plans in my future. But there are people that want to tell me that what I see isn't really there. But I look at those people and I say, seeing is believing. Oh, you know, the more I think about it, I suppose it won't be so bad to marry James. After all, I could surely use a nurse for a husband with my surgery coming soon. See, I've been having some tummy troubles, but I'm not worried. They're sending me to that new Columbus hospital with all their fancy surgery doodads. It's so progressive. After all, it is 1919. Oh, gee, this has just got to be one of them.
That's okay. Just clip it back on, and you can start right there what you were just saying, OG. And I'll just
Okay. Like here?
Yeah, right there. Start after all it is 1990.
Okay.
Oh, gee, this is just the most exciting thing that's happened to me in my 18 years of living. Well, maybe except for, can you folks keep a secret? See, Mama doesn't like me to tell too many people. But the doctors have been giving me this medicine. It's called opium. It makes me feel so nice. It's like I'm just drifting around and around. But also, like I could just shout, hello! And the whole world could hear me. Isn't that beautiful? It makes life so much more fun. Which is why the doctors say it's normal to form a sort of dependence on it. And that's why they want to take me off of it after my surgery. But they can't do that. They don't understand. The doctors don't understand. Mother doesn't understand. Nobody understands. Oh, I'm sorry. Sometimes I just get a little carried away when I talk about that. Well, you folks, you lovely folks should probably stay far, far away from it if you know what's good for you. Or else, Mr. Valentino, do I look all right? I don't want to.
Thank you for participating in the 27th annual Tales from the Crypt.
The students at the Mississippi School for Mathematics and Science hope that you have enjoyed your evening and hope that tonight's performance has encouraged greater appreciation for those who have gone before us and built the community of Columbus. Please walk past the waiting guests to your vehicles and follow the directions of the parking assistants to leave the cemetery. Have a good night.